Last night was Mini Tuesday, where several states voted in the Democratic primary and Republican, but, Trump's running basically unopposed. But in the Democratic primary, a cold bucket of ice water was splashed into the face of Bernie Sanders supporters who are now realizing perhaps you've been in an echo chamber this whole time. The comments on Reddit, I don't want to say it's sad. I'm glad to see these people finally realize you have been trapped in a social media echo chamber of people just in a circle patting each other on the back. We'll keep this one family friendly, but you get my point. We now have this story from the Daily Mail. How long can Bernie go on? Sanders holes up in Vermont after stunning setback without addressing his supporters. And even AOC says there's no sugarcoating it. It was a tough night. Now, I want to show you the results first. And then I want to get to, this is actually really, really fascinating. People thought Bernie was going to win Michigan. I believe Bernie beat Hillary in Michigan in 2016, but Bernie did a lot better. And what people are starting to realize is that Bernie's support, he didn't have enough to win the nomination in 2016, but he was doing well because people really, really hated Hillary, Democrats included, which contributed to Trump's defeat, which, dare I say, these results are also extremely bad news for Trump. Factor in some, current breaking news issues, and Trump actually might be facing a serious challenge. I'll show you the data, but first, let's take a look at the election results here. This is the AP primary results map. Right now in Washington, Bernie Sanders is leading by 0.2%, with 67 precincts reporting. Biden has won Idaho, Missouri, Mississippi, and Michigan. But Bernie Sanders has won North Dakota. So congratulations, Bernie, on your North Dakota win. Now, here's what's crazy about Washington. Biden basically spent nothing on ads there. Bernie dumped nearly $500,000, and all that got him was a 0.2% lead. Guess what? The Democrats, the people who actually vote, are rejecting the far left. Now, what's really fascinating about all of this is how Bernie dominates the youth vote. I'm just going to give you some advice. Don't get your advice from children, because they probably don't know what they're talking about and can't win. They also don't vote anyway. It's fascinating to me that there's so many people on the left, be it, the Greta Thunberg fans or whatever, that are propping up children to guide them, and then they're wondering why they lose. Seriously? Look, man, there are young people who are very smart. There are young people who are very successful. Some of them, most successful people in the world became, internationally renowned at very young ages. I'm not going to go off naming a bunch of people, but there are a lot of young people who can become very, very successful. The problem is too many young people don't care. They just want to fit in. So they go online and they get in that big ring of everyone shaking each other's hands. It's like, Jerry from Rick and Morty. You're all shaking each other's hands and patting each other on the back, laughing about how they're going to do it. They're going to win. And then they say, okay, now everyone go out and vote. And they're like, yeah, you got it. Hey, put on The Office. Because I kid you not, how much you want to bet? I'm not even exaggerating. That these people who are on Reddit talking about Bernie Sanders, they're tweeting and they're posting these things like, yeah, Bernie's going to win. And they're literally sitting in their living room watching The Office. Because The Office is like the most popular Netflix thing. I'm not exaggerating either. I bet a seriously large portion of Bernie's base was doing just that. So let me read the story from the Daily Mail, and then I want to show you the sad reality of these people on Reddit realizing Bernie only did well because people hate Hillary Clinton. In my opinion, Bernie flip-flopped. That cost him a lot. But they're just starting to realize they're in a bubble. They're in a bubble they couldn't see out of. Bernie Sanders chose not to give a speech Tuesday night after getting an electoral drubbing from Joe Biden in Michigan, Missouri, and other states. It was a defeat that one of his most prominent supporters, Ocasio-Cortez, did not deny. Let's talk about it. Someone says, tell us it'll be okay. There's no sugarcoating it. Tonight's a tough night. Yeah, and so was Super Tuesday for the movement overall. The first-term lawmaker and left-wing firebrand said in a live feed posted to her Instagram account, tonight's a tough night electorally. Now, I want to add something to this, because I've been tracking the Gallup data, and they show us some interesting trends. The Democratic Party has become less moderate and less conservative and more progressive. When Gallup actually tracked the Democratic Party and asked them how they align, liberal was going up, moderate and conservative was going down. And there was like an apex point, I think in not an apex, a crossing, between progressive and liberal. Progressive and moderate in 2012, I believe it was, when the left wing, contingent, the leftist contingent of the Democratic Party started to become the dominant faction. The reason this is interesting is that while the Democratic Party is becoming more left, even by their own standards, according to Gallup, people are less likely to identify as liberal today and more likely to identify as conservative. And that says something very important to me. Moderates and conservatives don't view themselves as liberal anymore. They view themselves as conservative. So what I mean to say is the conservative and moderate portion of the Democratic Party are going down. They're leaving and now identifying themselves as conservatives or Republicans. That's why people are more likely to say they're conservative, less likely to say they're liberal. And it's also why the progressives are taking on the Democratic Party. I don't think the issue is that the country is becoming more progressive. I think the issue is the Democratic Party is being dominated by the fringe activist base, and it's pushing out all of the moderates to the Republican Party, and now these people think they're conservatives. It is the craziest thing to me. I did a video. I said, do your political compass test, right? Me, I'm left libertarian, but I don't identify with these people because they're all nuts. They believe insane things. You can't simultaneously say, I'm for the working class and want to provide health care to everyone in this country, but we're going to open up them borders to everybody else. It literally makes no sense. You can be for one, but not the other. So even someone like me, now look, I think realistically, my policy position's fairly moderate. On the political compass, my idealistic version of, how I want to live, it's very lefty libertarian. And the easiest way to explain that for people who are like, I don't know what that means, because libertarian is often associated with right-wing economics in this country. It's like this. Bunch of hippies living on a farm. Your buddy walks in and is like, hey, man, I just grew a bunch of watermelons. Would you like to share? Yeah. Hey, I just sewed this hammock. Would you like to sleep in it? That's like my idealistic living circumstance. Very hippie-ish, right? And even I do not agree with these people. They're authoritarian statists and their policy ideas make literally no sense. But the reason I bring all that compass stuff up is that so many people I talk to tell me they're right wing or conservative because they're more likely to align on freedom issues with conservatives. So what happens is there are people who used to be liberal, like literally Democrat liberal, and now they're finding what they like, the comedians they laugh at, the shows they like. What's that? You like Family Guy? Yeah, people love Family Guy. Oh, but Family Guy makes offensive jokes all the time. That's not left. People say, I like Dave Chappelle, but Dave Chappelle's so offensive. You like Joe Rogan? Well, apparently Joe Rogan is alt-right if you haven't been paying attention. So what happens when you have the most popular podcaster in the world, who is a very lefty dude, and all these people love listening to him? They agree with Joe, they're regular people, and then they are told by these weirdos in the media, in these bubble echo chambers of the Bernie Sanders base, that means you're alt-right. Well, then they start to say, well, I'm not that, but, they assume they must be conservative because they're certainly not left. So the left is shrinking because of this circular firing squad, woke cancel culture. They're pushing everybody out. Congratulations. You've now built an echo chamber where you dominate certain social media platforms and it doesn't represent real life. So now you can cry all night. You're not going to win, and I can't say I'm surprised. Check this out. Welcome to Reddit's r/politics. For those that aren't familiar with Reddit, they used to call it, I think they might still call it this, the front page of the internet. Reddit is a site where you can submit links, people can vote up or down, and if it gets more upvotes than downvotes, there's an algorithm involved, then the post climbs to the top and you will see it at the top. So let's take a look at some of these websites. They like to post to politics. This used to be a general politics forum. When you would go on Reddit back in the day, you could find politics about anything. Now, with its 5.8 million subscribers and 64,000 people online, it is a leftist activist messaging board. I'm not kidding. And they're starting to realize it. First of all, Common Dreams is one of the sites that has been upvoted 39,100 points. Common Dreams. That's an activist website, not a news source. That is not a news website, and that's where they're getting their information from. What else do we have? Common Dreams again. Now, look, they have Politico, they have Business Insider, The Hill, USA Today. They have Mother Jones, Slate, and Common Dreams again. The stories they post. This is so fascinating. I'd love to see some researchers study this stuff. The stuff they post from, Politico and Slate is almost exclusively anti-Trump stories, pro-Bernie stories, and ambivalent to negative Biden stories. So I can point out that, USA Today is a fine source. Politico can be bad. Business Insider can be bad, but they do okay sometimes. But when they only post the stories, or I shouldn't say they only post the stories, but if you try posting anything that isn't echo chamber, you get basically obliterated. They just downvote you. No one ever sees the story. These are people who are literally upvoting activist websites thinking they're getting news. Bravo. You've done it to yourself. If you could take off the blinders for 1 minute, and then you'd realize why you were absolutely crushed by Joe Biden. Now, I'll admit, I did not expect Joe Biden to do this well. The polls, the forecast models had him tanking hard. Now the 538 forecast model has Joe Biden at a greater than 99% chance of winning the nomination. Surprising to even me. But look, when I look at the news, when I form an opinion, I'm looking at aggregate polling and stories, and we were looking at Joe Biden falling off a cliff, losing primaries, and his polling was tanking, and 538 said he wasn't going to win. It's entirely possible the trend reverses. Maybe Bernie does turn around or something, but I really, really, really doubt it. I mean, keep in mind, I was wrong about Biden. I mean, I don't think anybody saw this coming. That was shocking to a lot of people. But now let's take a look at the mega thread. This is a mega thread. Joe Biden wins. Mississippi, Missouri, Michigan Democratic presidential primary. They put all of these stories about Joe Biden winning. Check out the first comment is funny. I'll read it anyway. Drive-through voting. Seattle really is the epicenter of American innovation. Yeah, it's a funny post. Check this one out. Second comment says, I think this definitively proves there are more people not on Reddit than on Reddit. This is the best take so far, they respond. I also have to constantly remind myself that my entire internet experience is just a better disguised, more targeted version of my recommended playlist on YouTube. I've been taking extra steps this past year to diversify my information sources. These people are sitting in a room with a bunch of soy bro Bernie bros, and they're all high-fiving each other, going like, yeah, we're going to win, woo! And outside is the rest of the Democrats being like, those people are nuts. You try and walk in the room, they slam the door in your face, they call you names, they insult you, they kick you out, and they're convinced they're going to win, and all those people have walked away. Check this out. This person says, in New York just now, Sanders' last hope for a notable win tonight is Washington, where polls close in 20 minutes. This is a while ago, mind you. Sanders spent $490,000 on ads there. Biden spent about $1,000. LOL, $1,000 in ad spending for a state. And guess what? Joe Biden is trailing Bernie by only 0.2%. Biden didn't even bother to go. He's like, yeah, it's Seattle. It's ultra progressive. They're going to vote for Bernie. I ain't spending money there. And he should have, because now he might lose it by 0.2%. But that shows you just how much Bernie needed to spend to try and get a tiny edge over Biden. North Dakota is interesting. I'm surprised they went for Bernie, but I think it might have something to do with the pipelines. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of activists up there. So check this out. This person said, wow, people hated Clinton in 2016. Oh, you're starting to get it right now. It's not that Bernie Sanders was leading this revolution. And now that I look at this data and I see these results, I do kind of feel like, I used to think Bernie would have beaten Trump in 2016. I'm not so sure. I am not so sure. But maybe. Because the people who hated Hillary, some of them voted for Trump. So it's entirely possible. And if that's true, and they don't hate Joe Biden as much, Trump might actually lose to Biden. Take that into consideration with the other big breaking news story happening around the world. Trump has got some serious setbacks. So when I look at all the metrics and data of the past, there's a lot of reason to believe that Trump was going to landslide in 2020. I'm sorry, in November. It is 2020. But I'll remind you all right now, this is interesting data to take into consideration. And you better not think you're going to sweep. They thought Trump was going to lose to Hillary, and now it's Sleepy Joe. Check this out. This is what I find fascinating. Here's the age breakdown of, I believe this, yes, here's the age breakdown. 18 to 29 went 82% for Sanders, and that was only 15% of the vote. We can see as people got older, they were less likely to support Sanders. And there are two reasons for this. Progressive sensibilities, more likely, the younger you are, the more likely you're going to believe in pipe dreams, I guess. It's young people I think are really dumb. It's also old people who are more likely to relate to a similar way of thinking of like Joe Biden. But I really do think the principal factor here is young people are ignorant, not stupid. I mean, people can, generally stupid. As George Carlin said, think about how stupid the average person is. Now realize half of them are stupider than that. So yeah, people can be stupid, right? But I think the bigger issue is young people don't understand how anything works. Dude, an 18-year-old, even up to a 24-year-old, these kids who are college educated, who are voting, they've never gotten their first paycheck, or many of them haven't. And once they start seeing what Sanders is proposing, they ain't going to be too happy about it. You look at the tax brackets, and it's kind of scary. Bernie wants to tack on an 11.5% tax for healthcare. Now, he argues that it would cost less for healthcare. That is technically the truth. The issue is young people don't spend money on healthcare. He's talking about having young people subsidize older people. And I get it. I get the point. But you have all these young people being like, I'll finally have healthcare if I pay this. You're going to be paying so much more for healthcare under Bernie's plan if you're a young person, because normally you wouldn't spend money. When you go to Bernie Sanders' tax calculator, it's like, how much do you spend per year in healthcare costs? It's like, well, I'm between the ages of 18 and 29. The answer is typically 0. For real. It's really, really, really low. When you're older, it goes up. So the general idea is the young subsidize the old. And I get it. It's not necessarily a bad idea, because then the idea is that if you're a young person, when you get old, then you get subsidized, unless the system becomes insolvent. And it's not necessarily a good idea if you're paying money into a system you will never reap the benefits of, like, some other government programs that don't seem to work. The point is, young people hear this story about, we got to tax the billionaires. I looked it up. I think there's 607 billionaires in the United States. And I don't know if all of them are flooding politics or anything like that. I'm sure some of them don't care, mind their own business. But Bernie's first problem is that he used to say millionaires and billionaires. Now he doesn't. Why? Well, Bernie became a billionaire. As soon as he did, all of a sudden, it just didn't really matter anymore. Now it's just the billionaires, which is weird to me because Bernie's barely a millionaire, and someone who's got $999 million is a millionaire. But anyway, I digress. When Bernie talks about these plans, we're going to give everyone health care. We're going to pay for everyone's college. You get a young person who's like, sounds good to me, without doing any basic math. Basic math. Okay, if you want to pay off everyone's college, guess what? You're basically going to have to tax everyone to pay off that debt or forgive it, which disrupts the system, hyperinflation, etc. There's a lot of problems involved. You can't just snap your fingers and do these things. There are solutions that can be worked out. But Bernie's pipe dreams have no explanation. So it's not surprising to me that if you go to a young person and say, if you vote for me, you'll have $1 million by the end of the year, they're going to be like, wow, I want $1 million. The people who are older, they're like, yeah, been there, done that. I'm not buying your bridge, buddy. The older people are more cynical, more realistic, less idealistic, and are less likely to vote for someone like Sanders. More importantly, what we see here is these young people who are dancing around acting like they care about, Bernie Sanders. They don't vote. They don't care. So here's what I love about r/politics. What you get 40,000 people upvoting an activist website. Could you even muster that many people to vote? Apparently you couldn't. So they go online and like, yeah, go Bernie Sanders. And they press that button. And then they're like, is that voting thing today? You want to watch The Office and order pizza? Yeah. They don't care. They don't vote. And Bernie loses because of it. But I'm going to show you a couple more things. We'll sign this one off. Cigar and Jetty says, last night, we learned how much of Bernie's 2016 support was just anti-Hillary. Bernie benefited then from the right's definition of Hillary in the public eye for over 2 decades in politics. This time around, it was up to him to define Biden, and he never mustered the strength to do so. Glenn Greenwald said, I think that's true in part, but I also think the Democratic electorate has changed over the last 4 years as a result of an incessant focus on Trump, typically led by conservative themes, institutions, and people, conservative in the broad sense. That helped lead them to Biden. I don't buy it. I really, really don't. I think Cigar is correct. I think a lot of Bernie support was people hating Hillary Clinton, which really helped Donald Trump. And if that's the case, then without the anti-Hillary, Trump might actually have a hard time. But I do think it's fair to say that since Trump's first election, the New York Times has noted his base is larger, his approval is way higher, his favorability is typically up. So these are all really good things that show that, Trump is headed to an election win. But I think, I used to say I thought it was going to be a blowout. I'm walking that back a little bit after seeing this. We'll see, though. I still think Trump will win. I could be wrong, and hubris will be the downfall of Trump supporters. But here's my response. I responded to Cigar saying, also, I think we learned that Bernie has since surrounded himself by high-profile controversial figures, and he's flipped 180 degrees on immigration. Get woke, go broke, even if it's only a little. Bernie Sanders started embracing these lunatics, these fringe woke leftist identitarians, and I'm willing to bet he lost support because of that. And I'm willing to bet there are a lot of Democrats who hate the woke left cancel culture stupidity. They see Bernie Sanders get pushed around on stage, and their reaction is, I want things to be the way they were. They want Joe Biden. So they vote for Biden. I think this is a bigger factor. Bernie Sanders is saying, I'm going to help the working class, and I'm also going to allow people to cross the country, decriminalizing it. I won't deport them. I'm going to give them government health benefits. And then you're getting people going like, whoa, dude, what? When Bernie ran last time, he said it was a Koch brothers proposal for that open borders was. And he was in favor of border security. You got a lot of union Democrats behind him then. You want to know what this is about, in my opinion? I got to admit, I do not like Biden. I think he is not all there, and I would never vote for the guy. But when it comes to, say, healthcare, I think Biden's right and Bernie is wrong. So Biden's general policy position, at least as far as I understand, is a public option in expanding the Affordable Care Act. And I'm like, marginal increases, public option, let people keep their private insurance, makes sense to me. That seems reasonable. Bernie Sanders is, in 4 years, completely abolished private health care. One of the most radical positions on the planet. Because even most of these other countries offer supplemental private insurance. So you're looking at someone like me in 2016. I liked Bernie. You know why? He was a moderate on some issues. He was progressive on most issues. But he also said open borders. We can't do it. What do we have now? Bernie Sanders on stage raising his hand. I'm going to give everyone, non-citizens, government health care. What do you think the Union Democrat voters did when they saw that? They were like, whoo, I'm voting Biden. That was a total 180. Bernie was asked about the Second Amendment in 2016, and he said it's a rural versus urban issue. And I'm like, bravo, good sir. Spot on. People who live in rural areas have legitimate needs for protecting themselves and their families that city folk just don't get. And so you end up with these urban Democrats wanting blanket laws across the entire country for everyone, when the problems in cities are not the problems in these rural areas. Well, where's Bernie now? I'm proud to have a D- from the NRA, and I'm all about assault weapons ban. It's like, okay, dude, you want to know why people are moving away from Bernie? It's not just because in the past they hated Hillary, which they did. It's because Bernie went broke. And now you get a resounding defeat. And you deserve it. Bernie should have maintained his no, we will not open the borders. No, we will keep it a crime. Yes, we will deport, period. And he would have maintained that support. Because even Biden is like, flipping. He says he's going to do a moratorium on deportations. So here's what I think. I think the hate of Hillary played a big role in Bernie doing well. But you got to understand how much Bernie has changed. I was a big fan of Bernie in 2016. I was super excited for him. But I knew he was wrong on a lot of things. And I would argue this with my friends all the time. Like, you can't just say you're going to put a tax on Wall Street speculation to pay for something because you have no idea how that'll impact the markets. But I also saw him as someone who was being reasonable on a lot of issues, and he was being honest. Saying, like, look, we need to help the working class. TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, bad thing. NAFTA, bad thing. We got to fix these trade deals. We need better border security. I'm like, this guy's talking sense. I see what he's saying. Where's he at today? You know what, man? I made that point. Today, he's woke. No, we're going to let everybody come in. Okay, dude. Can't happen. You cannot simultaneously claim you're going to help the working class and then you're going to tax them to pay for non-citizens. Because they're going to say, no way, dude. I'm not letting you take 11.5% of my income tax to then give to other people. Let me tell you something. I'm probably going to get demonetized for even bringing this up. But I'm going to end with this. You see what's going on right now around the world and the panic and everyone's freaking out? People getting sick? We are concerned that the our medical institutions are about to reach capacity. In Italy, they're on the brink of collapse. All right, now take this. Open up the borders and give non-citizens access. I'm sorry, man. I want to protect everybody, but it is a fanciful lie that you can open your front door and welcome all of the homeless of LA into your house and take care of them. It's not physically possible. So go ahead, Bernie. Flip-flop in this direction and you get crushed. And the young activists on Reddit and Twitter who are just patting each other on the back got a cold splash of water in the face. Wake up time. The next segment will be coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. I will see you all then.